This is the path. Wow, would never have guessed, right?
Being able to ride across the hills from Katraj to Bopdev or the other way around is something of an urban legend, and I've been wanting to do this ever since I've cycled to the tops of these ghats. It's taken me 2 years to find a group to do it with, and this route is as dangerous as it is epic. No matter how skilled you are, you don't want to be doing this alone. Today we're going to ride from Katraj to Bopdev, but by the end of this video, you should be able to do it in either direction. Step 1 is to go up the old Katraj Ghat and cross the tunnel.
This is it? This is the path. Wow, would never have guessed, right?
The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. That's the one we're taking right now. I'm sure most of you have passed this dozens of times, having no idea where it could actually take you. I know I had no clue.
What the hell is that?
See, just a few feet off the road and we are already overrun by wild animals. Perhaps I'm pointing out the obvious, but 3 things to keep in mind. Don't do this alone, don't do this alone, and don't do this alone. Okay, just kidding. You need an MTB or a good cross hybrid to attempt this route, and you should bring a liter of water just for this 9-kilometer stretch across the hills.
You want to go there? Yeah.
Well, at least you can wheel the bike.
Out of next.
As you can hear, my friend Faiz is already wondering whether this was a good idea. It was. But before we really get started, let me give you an overview of the route. We're going to be covering this 9-kilometer stretch over the hills between Katraj and Bopdev. Take a look at how we make our way around the hills. If we take a look at the elevation, here we are going up the Katraj Ghat, and this is where we just started our hill route a few moments ago. You do a fair amount of climbing with the bike for the first 700 meters or so, but the rest of the route is mostly flat with a few minor ups and downs, except a small climb again at the end before we reach the Bopdev Ghat. We come now to the first route selection point. We need to ride past the tower on the right, and the easiest way up is to take the scenic route past this temple that Taizoon is pointing to.
So this goes to 300. Wow. Oh, no cycling?
So saddle height should be down, body weight behind, especially on downhill. On climb, body weight front wheel. मतलब ऐसे झुककर climb कीजिए, क्योंकि आगे का wheel skid होगा, जगह पर घूमेगा, पीछे का wheel जगह पर घूमेगा और climb नहीं होगा.
Along this entire route, there are just a couple of points where you could take a wrong turn, and I'll be covering those here. The rest of the trail should be fairly obvious, and I will also share a GPX file that you can use to navigate, so don't worry too much about getting lost. We are now at the second route selection point, where we need to decide whether we go right or left around the hill. Well, we simply continue along this path and go left and down. This brings us to the end of the guided part of this route. The trail you now need to take should be fairly obvious, but if it's not, stick to the sides of the hills and ride around them, never go down into the valley. And of course, remember the GPX file. You're going to be walking and riding along this entire route, and when you're in a large group, you might find yourself being blocked by others or blocking others yourself.
Hey, good job, Faiz.
How much you ride depends on your ability to pick the right line, skills as a mountain biker, and in some part the risks you're willing to take while on the bike. There are some sections that are impossible to ride, of course. The scenery changes frequently from what I like to call fields of gold to these burnt open plains, and I'm sure there's going to be a huge difference post the monsoons. The terrain is mostly the same all through though. I said earlier that this is a dangerous route, and this is why. One of our riders slipped off the trail while walking with his bike. Thankfully, he stayed within reach, but this could easily have been far more dangerous.
Go on, yeah.
These aren't sheer cliffs, so it's not like you'd kill yourself, but you would need friends to haul you out. I crossed over after this point and decided it was safer on all fours.
Alright, thank you.
If you're still watching and you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. It's just good to know you enjoy watching these videos and I'll keep making them.
Oh my god, wow.
So, that was my reaction on seeing Rameshwar Temple, the base of which is right next to the main road at the end of this trail. While it was a really fun experience, at this point the sun was high in the sky and we had run out of water.
Amazing.
So it was good to have the end in sight. We are still about 2.5 kilometers away from the road and the routes here are fairly obvious. What I love about these trails is that while they're not technical, there are twists, turns, gradients, wide open spaces, and unlike the trails behind, you're not riding along the sides of a hill. So these are the perfect complement to a ride up Bopdev Ghat, a climb and off-road trails. What more could you ask for? Since we're at the end of our trail, let's break down our ride. We took 2 hours and 20 minutes to cover a distance of 9 kilometers. This includes about 20 minutes of resting time. This is a speed by distance chart with the red line at 5 km per hour, approximately walking speed. You can see that there's a 2 kilometer stretch around the middle of the route where we were mostly walking, though there are several points across the other sections where we had to walk, if only for a little bit. I'm estimating we did about an hour of riding and walking each, but if you're a skilled rider, you should be able to skew things more onto the riding side. That's the Rameshwar Temple we've been tracking, bringing us to the end of this video. I hope it's given you some new riding ideas or perhaps even encouraged you to start cycling. Thanks for riding along and I'll see you next time.
4 बजे सोया हुए फिर भी इन लोगों ने ये लोग हैं जिन्होंने मुझे उठाकर लेकर आए वेर पर से उठाया है मुझे अच्छी नींद से उठाया है एवरी मॉर्निंग आई सी हिज 4 o'clock good morning ride
I think he's waking up earlier than normal.